Let's continue with Chapter 8. Exposition to the North Pole. Exposition to the North Pole. The first person he met was Rabbit. "Hello, Rabbit," he said. "Is that you?" "Let's pretend it isn't," said Rabbit, "and see what happens." "I've got a message for you." "Well, I'll give it to him." "We're all going on an exposition with Christopher Robin." "What is it, and when we're on it?" "A sort of boat, I think," said Pooh. "Oh, that sort. Yes, we're going to discover a pole or something. Or was it a mole? Anyhow, we're going to discover it." "We are we?" said Rabbit. "Yes, and we've got to bring things to eat, in case we want to eat them. Now I'm going down to Piglet's. Tell Kanga, will you?" Then he left Rabbit and hurried over to Piglet's house. The Piglet was sitting on the ground at the door of his house, blowing happily on a dandelion, and wondering whatever it would be this year, next year, sometimes or never. He had just discovered that it would never, and was trying to remember what it was, and hoping it wasn't anything nice, when Pooh came up. John had a drink of milk from his salsa jar. "Oh, Piglet," said Pooh excitedly, "we're going on an exposition. All of us, with things to eat, to discover something." "To discover what?" said Piglet anxiously. "Oh, just something. Nothing fierce." Christopher Robin didn't say anything about fears. He just said it had an X. "It isn't their necks I mind," said Piglet earnestly. "It's their teeth, but if Christopher Robin is coming, I don't mind anything." In a little while they were already at the top of the forest and the exposition started. First came Christopher Robin and Rabbit, then Piglet and Pooh, then Kanga with Roo in a pocket and Owl, then Eeyore, and at the end in a long line all Rabbit's friends and relations. "I didn't ask them," explained Rabbit carelessly. "They just came. They always do. They can always march at the end," said Eeyore. "I always march at the end after Eeyore." "What I say," said Eeyore, "that is so unsettling." "I didn't want to come on this expo, what Pooh said. I only came to oblige. But here I am, and if I am the end of the expo, what we're talking about, then let me be the end. But if every time I want to sit down for a little rest, I have to brush away half a dozen of Rabbit's smaller friends and relations first, then it isn't an expo, whatever it is. At all, it's simply a confused noise. That's what I say." I see what Eeyore means," said Owl. "If you ask me, I'm not asking anyone," said Eeyore. "I'm just telling everybody. We can look for the North Pole, or we can play Here We Go Gathering Nuts into May, and the end of the part of an ant's nest. It's all the same to me." There was a shout from the top of the line. "Come on," said Christopher Robin. "Come on," called Pooh and Piglet. "Come on," called Owl. "We're starting," said Rabbit. "I must go." And he hurried off to the front of the exposition with Christopher Robin. "All right," said Eeyore. "We're going. Only don't blame me." So off they all went to discover the pole. And as they walked, they chatted to each other this and that, all except Pooh, who was making up a song. "This is the first verse," he said to Piglet when he was ready with it. "First verse of what?" "My song." "What song?" "This one." "Which one?" "Well, if you don't listen, Piglet, you'll not. If you listen, Piglet, you'll hear it." "How do you know I'm not listening?" Pooh couldn't answer that one. Oh. So he began to yawn. No, Pooh couldn't answer that one. So he began to sing. They all went off to discover the pole. Owl, Piglet, and Rabbit and all. It's a thing you discover, that's what I've been told, by Owl, Piglet, and Rabbit and all. Eeyore, Christopher, Robin, and Pooh, and Rabbit's relations all went too, and where the pole is none of them knew. Hey, sing hey for Owl and Rabbit and all. "Hush," said Christopher Robin, turning around to Pooh. "We're just coming to a dangerous place." "Hush," said Pooh, turning around quickly to Piglet. "Hush," said Piglet to Kanga. "Hush," said Kanga to Owl, while Roo said, "Hush, hush," several times to himself, very quietly. "Hush," said Eeyore to Owl. Owl to Eeyore. "Hush," said Eeyore in a terrible voice to all Rabbit's friends and relations. And Hush, they all said hastily to each other, all down the line, until it got to the last one of all. And the last and smallest friend and relation was so upset to find the whole expedition and saying hush to him that he buried himself into the ground in a crack in the ground. Aw. And staying there for over 2 days until the danger was over, and then he went home in a great hurry and lived quietly with his aunt ever afters. His name was Alexander Beetle. They had come to a stream which tweeted and tumbled upon high rocky banks, and Christopher Robin saw at once how dangerous it was. "It's just one place," he exclaimed, "for an ambush." "What sort of bush?" whispered Pooh to Piglet. "A gorse bush?" "My dear Pooh," said Owl in a superior way, "don't you know what an ambush is?" "Owl," said Piglet, looking around at him severely. Pooh's whisper was a perfectly private whisper, and there's no need— "An ambush," said Owl, "is a sort of surprise." "An ambush, as I was about to explain to Pooh," said Piglet, "is a sort of surprise. If people jump out at you suddenly, that's an ambush," said Owl. "It's an ambush, Pooh, when people jump out at you suddenly," exclaimed Piglet. Pooh, who knew what an ambush was, said that a gorse bush had sprung at him suddenly at one day when he fell off a tree, and it had taken 6 days to get all the prickles out of himself. "We're not talking about gorse bushes," said Owl. "I am," said Pooh. They were climbing up very cautiously the stream now, going from little rock to rock, and after they had gone a little way, they came to a place where the banks widened out at each side, so that on each side of the water there was a level strip of grass on which they could sit down and rest. As soon as they saw this, Christopher Robin called, "Halt!" and they all sat down and rested. "I think," said Christopher Robin, "that we ought to eat all our provisions now, so we won't have much to carry." "Eat all of our what?" "That's what we've bought," said Piglet, getting to work. "That's a good idea," said Pooh, and he got to work too. "Have you all got something?" asked Christopher Robin with his mouth full. "All except me," said Eeyore, "as usual." He looked around them in his melancholy way. "I suppose none of you are sitting on a thistle by any chance?" "I believe I am," said Pooh. "Ow!" So he got up, looked behind him. "Yes, I was. I quite thought so." "Thank you, Pooh. If you've quite finished with it." He moved across to Pooh's place and began to eat. "It don't do them any good, you know, sitting on them," he went on and looked at Munchkin. "Takes all the life out of 'em. Rather another time, all of you. A little consideration, a little thought for others makes all the difference." As soon as he had finished his lunch, Christopher Robin whispered to Rabbit, and Rabbit said, "Yes, yes, of course," and they walked a little ways up the stream. "I don't want the others to hear," said Christopher Robin. "Quite so," said Rabbit, looking important. It's only, Rabbit, I suppose you don't know. What does the North Pole look like?" "Well," said Rabbit, stroking his whiskers, "now you're asking me." "I did know once, I've sort of forgotten," said Christopher Robin carelessly. "It's a funny thing," said Rabbit, "but I've sort of forgotten too, although I did know once. I suppose it's just a pole stuck in the ground?" "Sure to be a pole," said Rabbit, "because all the calling pole, if it's a pole, well, I think it should be sticking in the ground, shouldn't it? Because there'd be nothing else to stick it." "Yes, that's what I thought." "The only thing," said Rabbit, "is where does stick?" "Where is it sticking? That's what we're looking for," said Christopher Robin. Alright, I've got some pictures to show you before the camera's about to start recording. There's Eeyore eating what Pooh was sitting on. There's Christopher Robin telling Pooh to hush. And of course, the single best image in this entire book, insofar, Piglet blowing dandelions. Oh, I love you. I love you so much, and I'm having one of those I love you days. And I miss you a whole bunch, and it's driving me crazy because I just want to find you and kiss you and hug you and tell you everything. I love you, Christy. Sleep well, keep calm, fight along, carry on. Mwah, and I'll talk to you very soon. I love you, Christy. And good night.